this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. This is, well, I keep saying it's the last of the repots, but I've been waiting to repot this one for a long time. It's been in bloom for well over 2 months. It's on its last couple of blooms now, and it's got new roots coming, so that's really what I was waiting for, rather than waiting for the blooms to finish. They happen to have gone together. Not quite sure what I'm going to do with this. The latest cane is over 2 foot long. That doesn't lend itself very nicely to go in a pot. It would probably look better hanging upside down on a mount. Not made my mind up yet. A lot of these canes are coming off now. They have finished. They've done their job, and I need to get some new ones going. I've got 3 new canes, I think, at the moment, maybe 4. There may be more. I mean, this is it's a nobly type, but it's a strange one. It blooms in the summer for a start, and in addition to that, its growth pattern fits in with that. So it tends to grow its new canes at various times. Some of the earlier canes came up in come on, let go. Came up in spring. One's recently started, and it's only just pushing its roots out. So it's a strange grower, this one, for a nobly type. And I don't know if it's such a large plant, I'm not going to get it all in. But little canes like this are no longer any use to the plant. Quite honestly, they're just in the way. They're shriveled, they've got no leaves left. And even some of those that have still got a couple of leaves left, the leaves are not in good condition. This had a really bad infestation a while ago, which damaged what were the new growths at the time. And obviously the marks just stay on the leaves, so they don't look very elegant. Anyway, let's do the get it out of the pot. I don't know how many old roots are going to be in here. It's also got a load of algae in the pot, which was there prior to putting it in the dark pot. Oh, this is solid. I've got a feeling this is just going to be that, a solid mass of roots. But a lot of them will be old and dead, probably. This is going to come out. It doesn't want to. Let's get some effort behind it. Quite a lot of roots actually stuck to the pot. Right, what have we got then? Right, we have got, it's quite dry at the moment, I deliberately left it. It's just solid. I might be able to tease a bit out. I don't think so though, it's just, I suspect most of the roots in the centre will be gone. The good ones will be round the outside, if anything. Yeah, you can, where's my camera? Possibly you can see in there, all these roots in the middle here are just dead. So the centre of the pot is of no use at all. That's often the case. I mean, those are the oldest roots. Those were young roots once when it was a small plant, and now they're the oldest roots left behind as the plants moved outwards. Oops, don't know where that bit went. Didn't bring me coffee because I haven't got any. It's late in the day now. It's had a hard day today. For various reasons, I got behind with the watering, and in this weather that doesn't pay. My watering cycles are getting muddled up, and what actually happened was today I had a look at my notes and I thought actually everything in here needs watering. So I've had to water all my pots, the cooler growers, the lot. The only thing that didn't get watered today was the holy clay pots. They were done 2 days ago. They can wait till tomorrow. And if we get a dull day, they'll even go a day longer than that. But yeah, I had to do all my pots and all my mounts today. So it's been a busy day, and I'm virtually out of water now. And I'm paying a visit to an old school friend tomorrow at some point. There's no specific time I have to go, but being virtually out of water, the first thing I'll have to do tomorrow is get the RO unit on, if only for the hydro fogger. Even though I won't be watering many plants, At a pinch I could use this thing for the hydrofogger. I mean, it's filtered water, and I obviously don't want to use it continuously because it'll put the calcium that's in that water will get pumped out the top of the hydrofogger and go all over the plants, and over a period of time that can build up, you know, and get a coating on the leaves and everything. Just for a one fill it wouldn't be the end of the world. The rest of that will probably loosen under the tap. Although this looks like a good root system, it's not, because most of what's here is actually gone. This is the cane in question. As I say, that cane is 2 foot long, and it's already hanging downwards. It doesn't want to stand upright. In fact, I've got a feeling it's even snapped. With its weight has just pulled it over where it lost its cane, so I may have even lost that good cane. I'm not worried, because if I lose that cane, I think what's left could go back in the pot. That cane has done something funny, because it grew to the normal size and then it stopped, and then it pushed out again from the top, so it's an abnormal growth. This plant wouldn't normally get that tall. But as I said, I think that cane has now snapped. Right, we've still got some scale at the base, which I'll have to deal with. I think what I'm going to do is I'll just go and get my pruning scissors a minute. I'll be back. Right, I think the best thing to do is just get off the canes I no longer want. That will be leafless, fully bloomed canes. Now, I could worry about the strength of the plant, but at this particular point I'm not going to. That big long cane that's just potentially broken, so I'm just trying to find the older ones with no leaves that have bloomed, or those that are really old that haven't bloomed, because they were the original canes when I probably got it, which is some time ago now. I had this one a while. But this is going to make this plant an awful lot easier to handle with a lot less canes to worry about. There may even end up with an older section of the plant where the whole piece of plant can come off. You know, just literally where if all these old canes end up having come off from roughly the same place, then that part of the plant can just be separated off. But the ones I'm taking off initially are just those that are leafless, either have or haven't bloomed, and then I'm going to see what I've got left. Now what I've got left is some that have got a couple of leaves on, but they're manky, and they've probably bloomed as much as they're going to. This one, although it's a nobly, it doesn't bloom over the whole length of the cane. It blooms over around a third of it near the top. It's an odd one. If it has got nobly in it, I don't think it's got much, because it doesn't grow normally, naturally. But as I said, I do get doubled up blooming on canes occasionally, where you know, it blooms on a few nodes one year and then pushes out some more the next year, but never more than about a third down the cane. That's about as far as the blooms ever go. So if you look on the older cane, yeah, they're about a third of the way down. That's all it ever does. It never blooms right down the length of the cane. Yeah, unfortunately that nice long cane has actually snapped, so it's going to have to come off. That's a shame, but that was the one that was causing me the problem. Now what have we actually got left now? That's a new cane, that's unbloomed. That little one is new. I don't know what, I've got a feeling that was a winter growth that just aborted. Is that ever going to bloom again? I don't think it is. And nor's that one. So they are finished, even though they've got a couple of leaves on. Let's get them off. Now I can see what I'm doing. And quite honestly, what I've got now is a very old part of the plant down through here, but that new cane was up this end, so I'm not going to take it off, because potentially where that was a new cane, that could shoot out now, and where a lot of these other canes were, it might decide to push out. Right, so we have a shed load of dead roots. I think the best way to get them off is just hack them. Just take them off. It's the centre of the plant basically. They're just gone. Long since gone. Oh, come on. Oh, there's a piece of wood there. That's the old base to the plant, I think, there. Great big thick chunky bit. Right, how are we doing now? Still got dead bits in the middle. I should end up with some roots around the outside. And as I said, I do have some new root growth in places. Not much, but it's enough to make it a reasonable time to repot. Those few round there, I'm not going to do too much with those. The older ones there are actually joined onto the new ones. If I pull them off, they'll damage the new ones. Now in amongst this tangle, what have we got? Not a lot. So I don't think there'll be much left. So there's an older root there that started to branch, but then it's failed. I'm keeping that. I'm going to keep this little tangle round here. That's where most of the new ones are. And hacking about in there too much is probably going to lose them. Right. Just got clusters in here now of stumps. I'll get those off. I often find if you leave a solid mass of old tangled roots, it inhibits the new ones going down. They just come up against a block, and so they go out sideways instead. They don't give up, they don't abort, but they don't get down in the pot. Right, that leaves me with one tall cane and two that won't need staking. And I'm happy to start this plant again. I'm not going to clean this up much more than that, quite honestly. What it needs now is a good go with the hydrogen peroxide, kill that algae off, get rid of that once and for all, and then it'll go in a new pot with a dark cover around. I'll stop the algae coming back. It's going in a much smaller pot than it was in before, much smaller. That's about it, I think. Even though some of these roots have lost their growing tip, they're still viable, and it is a branching root system, so they may well branch out. One last little set of manky ones in there, if I can get at them. Yes, just. Right, there we go. That's a little root system, but it's only a little plant now, so it doesn't matter. And all I've got to do now is worry about. Still got some older parts to the plant down here. They're going to come, that section is just going to come off. Oh, that's a thick bit of wood. Should be getting the big cutters out really, rather than using my pruning scissors. They don't take kindly to cutting thick bits, they bend. Not meant for it really. There we go. Right, so that's what's left. The smallest pot I can get that in, and a stake, or do we mount it? No. The way it blooms, it would look better upright, so I'm going to keep it upright. In actual fact, there's a piece broken off there with a cane on it, so there's a piece for somebody else now if it will grow. So somebody else can have a bit of wedding bell one day. In theory, this little piece should shoot out. It's got next to no roots, but it's got one. One's sometimes all it needs. So we'll put a bit of cinnamon on that, pop that up in a tiny little pot, and put that in a separate pot. Really, the plan was to start this plant again. I often do that with an overlay, just literally hack it to pieces, take off all the old stuff, and it rejuvenates, it starts again, and all the canes are nice shiny new ones with a nice new set of roots. They look 10 times better than, when they get old, they get tired and tatty. Right, the plan was to leave that old bit on there in case it decides to push out some new growths. It's got plenty of time this year to do that, and we do have some nice active roots on this piece. So I shall have a clear up. We no longer throw this sort of thing in the hedge. We have a green recycling bin now, whoops, which we put all those sort of things in, and then the men come and take it away. So do I want to show potting that? Yeah, okay, I'll be back. Okay, I think I've got everything I need. I've just actually run out of hydrogen peroxide. I'm getting very low on the rubbing alcohol, so I actually ordered some more this morning. It takes a couple of days to arrive, so no big deal. But I didn't realise I was low on hydrogen peroxide. It's because I haven't done any potting for ages, so I haven't had a chance to use it. And I may not have even used it last time, I don't know. But anyway, we're nearly out, so we need some more. I'm also nearly out of large bark, but I'm not buying that now. If I buy that now, it's not even going to start getting used till next year. And we have a show in the end of February, which is sort of where we're looking at getting back into perhaps some more repotting. And quite honestly, the large bark is the least often used nowadays. It gets used for crocking in the bottom of the pots mainly, which is a bit wasteful, but so be it. It was bought originally as a large sack full because I had an awful lot of cattleyas and the like to do, which I wanted them in the large bark and nothing else, so that's why I bought the big sack, and it's lasted well, so it was worth it. It's not cheap, the Orchiata bark, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper if you buy it in the big sack. And it's even cheaper again if you get Peter White to bring it to a show and not pay the postage. So, ways and means. I often get a discount as well because I buy almost all my stuff from him. Nice guy. Right, a little trick before we start. You've often seen me struggling to get a stake to stay still and actually hold in a small pot. Right, trick. Get some duct tape and stick the flipping cane to the outside of the pot. Okay, it means the plant is going to be near the edge of the plot. My mouth won't work. Near the edge of the pot, but so be it. At least it'll be stable. So we'll just fold the end over so that I don't have to dig for it next time round. And then we'll just stick that on the edge of the pot, like so. Get it about halfway round, and then put the cane on, like so, and then put the rest of the sticky tape on. And that will just stay there now, that stake, and it won't move. And I don't have to worry about it being ugly looking, because it'll be stood inside a little black pot, won't it? So it's not a big deal. Anyway, a little bit of bark in the bottom, a little heavy on the moss in this case. There's a very good reason for that. The little piece, I just need to run that under the tap. I sprayed it with H2O, and although that effectively deactivates, I don't know, I just don't trust it. So if I've used HO2O, I always rinse it. And then I'm just going to put some cinnamon on the places where I've cut canes. Especially as one of them is going to go down in the media. There we go, that's that. Smell of apple pie. Right, so that's got to go up against the cane, and it's more important for the plant to be fixed to the cane. So I've actually got a little piece of garden wire this time, and I'm just going to take that round loosely so that it doesn't grab hold of the cane, but it stops it wobbling. I can put it round in a spiral, so it's held in several places, and if that's not enough, I've got some grabby clips as well. Right, so that's holding the pot above the media. The only new root I've got is heading down into the media. I don't want this deep, but I do want it a fraction higher than that, so that it's sat on the top of the pot. And any new roots that do come have at least got some depth to get into, rather than it being really, really shallow. And I need moss where that new root is, so that he stays hydrated. Just tuck some moss down that area there, just a bit extra, keep that little area of the pot hydrated. And then that's it. I don't need this packed in tight. There's no point, is there? There's no roots in there at the moment. I'm not trying to hold the plant upright by using the roots packed in tight. I just want the plant sitting on the top. Those exposed canes are exposed, they're not buried, and that's it. In fact, that will go round once more. And there we go, and I think I'll put a bitey clip on the top as well, just to hold it nice and upright. Then it will grow straight. Right, so that's the little one done. We won't forget what that is, will we? Because it's the only one with the sticky tape on. Right, that's one done. The next one's got to go in a bigger pot because of the width of the base of the plant, not necessarily the depth of the roots. And this is going to have quite a bit of crocking in the bottom because it hasn't got many roots to get down in there and use up the moisture, so I want air around the bottom of the pot. And the bark I used this time was a mixture of small and medium. So again, there's some air in there, but there's also some compactness to hold the moisture. Now, am I going to do the sticky stuff again? I think I am. You need a much bigger cane this time. So it would be great if you could use the sticky stuff on the inside, but then the sticky stuff will get wet and eventually it'll just come unstuck, whereas on the outside of the pot it won't. That are my theory, what I have. Oops. We might need two pieces this time. The cane's far too big, but I can cut the cane once I've got it fixed. Right, you need a sticky bit about there. Not sticking to yourself. Thank you. It's stuck to me. Duct tape is pretty heavy going. It really does hang on there. It is effectively waterproof, but not forever it's not. For an amount of time it's waterproof, but not forever. I'm just going to put another piece higher up. Just tuck that around the top. Right, that's my stake in place. My crocking's in there. Some mixture in. Just rinse my plant off again. As I said, H2O should be totally deactivated, but once it's done its job, once it stops the fizzing and stuff, it's basically just water. I still don't trust it. It's just an old habit, and what harm does it do? Not doing you any harm, not doing me any harm. Oh, I've got a lot of cut canes to seal this time. More. I think that's it. One little one in there. Mind the root. If you get cinnamon on a root tip, it'll dry it off. Right, now as I said, this is a wide plant. I'm hoping to get some new growths in this area, that's why I've left it on there. But the idea is that the tall cane is the bit that goes up against the stake. And the little cane that's attached to it doesn't matter actually. I should just be able to use some oops, I'll chuck the cinnamon all over the place, why don't I? Sign of tired clumsiness. I've got plenty more of those grabby clips which I can go and get in a minute. Right, let's get some media down in there. Gaps don't matter, not with a Dendrobium. If it was a Masdevallia, I wouldn't want any gaps at all, but on a Dendrobium it doesn't matter. I don't want to go too mad pressing down, because although I've got some good roots here, I wouldn't say I've got a shed load, so I don't want to go breaking any. And this is where most of them are, down this area. You can have a little bit more moss. Just encourage them to get going. I don't used to worry about the moss in the clear pots because of the algae. Now that they get tucked inside a black pot, the algae's irrelevant, so I can go a little heavier on the moss than I used to. How are we doing then? A little bit high on the base of the plant. I'll take a bit out. I want those canes that I've trimmed off, I want to see them. I don't want them buried. Seems firm enough. There's a root tip broken already. Never mind. It's not like it was the only one this time, like it was on the other plant. Right, I can see the base of my plant. That's the important bit. Most of the roots are in the pot. There's a couple of ones sitting on the surface there. Just tuck a little bit of moss on there. They'll head down, and that'll do. I just need another grabby clip. Keep it upright. Too tight, are they? No. No. Right, so that's that one done as well. Light as a feather and top heavy, but it's about to be watered and put inside another pot that will be a bit bigger. So there we go, that's Wedding Bell. Used to be Wedding Bells until I found out better. It's just Wedding Bell. No S on the end on the registered name. And it's got some nobly in it, not a lot. And I do like the flowers, but it's not my favourite plant. You know, some noblies, I actually love the plant. I almost put up with them not blooming. Well, not really. You know what I mean? I've actually got a leaf tucked in there, which we don't want. That's better. The others okay? Yeah, so I had a leaf tucked between the cane and the stake. Right, so there we go. We'll see how those two do now. As I said, I'm hoping this little tiny piece will actually get going. Even though it's only got one root. You know, I've planted kikis with no roots and they've still grown. Slowly, very slowly, but they have grown. So that's finally got that plant out of my hair, because wherever I've had that plant in the past, it's been in the way. And who knows, maybe one day that may get turned upside down on a mount. It depends. That's still quite a long cane to have upright in a pot. You know, it's going to cause me trouble keeping it upright. But if all the new canes that grow on this are also kept upright and not allowed to lean over in any shape or form, it'll always stand up. And if the worst comes to the worst, it can stand inside a clay pot. And the clay pot will hold it upright. So that's that done. Thanks for dropping by. See you again.